I had always wanted to move into a bigger, better place, and my wish was finally granted when I stumbled upon House 13 on Oakwood Lane. The moment I saw it, a shiver ran down my spine, but I brushed it off as excitement. The realtor assured me that it was a steal and that I'd be getting an amazing deal on the house. I was eager to embrace my new adventure, even if it meant embracing a haunted one. Moving day arrived, and my friends helped me pack up my old apartment and haul my belongings to the new house. As we carried boxes into the spacious living room, we couldn't help but notice the eerie silence that hung heavy in the air. It was as if the house was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The first few nights were uneventful, though the atmosphere was undeniably eerie. Every creak, every gust of wind made me jump. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But then came the night of the flickering lights. I was in the middle of cooking dinner when the lights above the kitchen table began to flicker. At first, I thought it was just a faulty bulb, but then the lights in the hallway joined in, dancing in a chaotic rhythm. I stood frozen, staring at the surreal spectacle, until the light suddenly went out completely. I fumbled for my phone, using its flashlight to guide me out of the kitchen and into the living room. As I stood there trying to figure out what to do, the lights came back on, revealing the sight of a shadowy figure standing at the end of the hallway. My heart raced, and I rubbed my eyes, convinced that it was just a trick of the light. But when I looked again, the figure was still there, its form wavering like smoke. "Hello?" I called out tentatively, my voice trembling. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it seemed to grow taller, elongating until it reached the ceiling. I blinked, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. And then, with a sudden burst of movement, the figure rushed towards me, wisps of darkness trailing behind it. I let out a scream and stumbled backwards, crashing into the coffee table. The figure dissipated, leaving behind an eerie silence. I clambered to my feet and stumbled into the hallway, determined to prove to myself that it was all a hallucination. But there, on the floor, were the imprints of footprints that led nowhere. I spent the next day researching the history of House 13, hoping to uncover any hints about its past. It turned out that the house had a dark history. The previous owner had mysteriously disappeared without a trace, leaving the house abandoned for years. The local legends whispered of curses and restless spirits, warning people to stay away from the cursed house. I couldn't believe my luck, or lack thereof. As the days passed, the house seemed to come alive with strange occurrences. Objects would move on their own, doors would open and shut by themselves, and chilling whispers echoed through the halls at night. Despite my fear, a strange sense of determination took over me. I refused to be driven away from my new home. One evening, as I was settling down to watch a movie, I heard a faint giggling coming from the hallway. I followed the sound, my heart pounding in my chest. The giggling grew louder, echoing through the walls. I turned a corner and came face to face with a floating, translucent figure, a little girl, no older than 8, with dark, hollow eyes. "Hi there," I stammered, unsure of what to say to a ghostly child. The girl continued to giggle, her feet hovering inches above the ground. "Are you stuck here?" The girl's laughter ceased, and she nodded slowly. A chill ran down my spine as I realized that I was having a conversation with a ghost. She extended a translucent hand toward me, her fingers beckoning. "Play with me," she whispered, her voice a haunting melody. I don't know how to play with ghosts," I mumbled, my voice shaking. The girl's expression shifted from innocent to mischievous, and suddenly she was gone, leaving only an echoing giggle behind. I stood there, my heart pounding, and then I heard the sound of a music box playing from the direction of the attic. Cautiously, I made my way up the creaky stairs and pushed open the attic door. The room was filled with dusty old furniture, but my attention was drawn to the antique music box sitting on a small table. Its delicate tune played, filling the room with an eerie nostalgia. I reached out to stop the music, but just as I touched the music box, a cold gust of wind swept through the room. The walls seemed to groan, and the shadows gathered, coalescing into the form of the ghostly girl. She smiled at me, her eyes glowing faintly. "Play with me," she repeated, her voice soft and ethereal. And so, in that haunted attic, I found myself engaged in a surreal tea party with a ghostly child. We sat around the dusty table sipping imaginary tea, and I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. It was simultaneously terrifying and oddly heartwarming. As the night waned, the girl's form began to fade, and the music box's tune grew fainter. She looked at me with a mixture of sadness and gratitude. "Thank you for playing with me," she whispered, her voice like a distant melody. I smiled, genuinely touched by the experience. "You're welcome. I hope you find peace." With a final faint giggle, the girl vanished, leaving me alone in the attic. As I made my way back to my bedroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that House 13 was more than just a haunted house. It was a place where the living and the spirits could coexist, even if just for a moment. And so, I continued to live in House 13, sharing my space with the playful, spooky, and often hilarious spirits that called it home. It wasn't the typical suburban dream I had envisioned, but it was an adventure beyond my wildest imagination. And as the years passed, I couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of my situation, living in a haunted house that had gone wrong in all the right ways.